from the mountain chuck all around.
John Avery Lomax was born in Goodman, Mississippi on September 23, 1867, to James and Susan Lomax. In August of 1869, when Lomax was just shy of 2 years old, his parents moved their family to Texas in 2 covered wagons. They settled on a farm in Boss County, north of Meridian, located on a branch of the Chisholm Trail. As a child, Lomax heard many folk songs and cowboy ballads sung by those on cattle drives from Texas to railheads in Kansas to sell and trade after the Civil War. Lomax documented many of these cowboy songs and took the collection with him to the University of Texas in 1895, where he studied English literature. Lomax explains in his autobiography, Adventures of a Ballad Hunter, the story of arriving at the university with his collection of cowboy songs. He shared them with one of his professors who referred to them as cheap and unworthy. That exchange persuaded him to burn his entire collection behind the men's dormitory and turn his focus towards more acceptable academic pursuits. Lomax worked at the university after graduation. In 1903, he accepted a position to teach English at Texas A&M, where he moved with his new wife, Bess Brown Lomax. In 1907, Lomax was awarded a scholarship for graduate school at Harvard University and was granted a sabbatical from Texas A&M to attend. It was at Harvard where he studied under Barrett Wendell and George Lyman Kittredge. Their attitude towards his passion for folk music was drastically different than his experience at the University of Texas. Rather than disapprove of his work, these 2 distinguished scholars inspired his interest and urged him to return his attention to folk music. Upon Lomax's graduation from Harvard, he resumed his position at Texas A&M. Renewed in his efforts for cowboy songs, he applied for and was awarded a Sheldon Grant for his research. He sent advertisements to newspapers and wrote hundreds of letters asking people for contributions to his collection and visited places one might find cowboys. In one instance, Lomax attended the 1909 Cattlemen's Convention in Fort Worth, Texas. During his stay in Fort Worth, he brought a small Edison recording machine that used wax cylinders to the back room of the White Elephant Saloon. He chose to carry a big horn instead of a microphone because in his travels he observed that the cowboys would normally refuse to sing into a microphone. Cowboy Songs and Other Frontier Ballads is the consequential compilation of this research and was published in 1910. In its first edition, it contained 112 songs and a foreword by Theodore Roosevelt, whose favorite song was said to be Home on the Range, one of the songs included in the book. A tragedy occurred in the Lomax family with the death of his wife Bess in 1931. The following year, Lomax's oldest son, John Lomax Jr., encouraged him to tour the country and lecture on his folk song research. The idea came as an opportunity to give his grieving father a source of cheer, but it was on that tour that Lomax met with the Macmillan Publishing Company in New York City and proposed the idea for an all-inclusive collection of American ballads and folk songs. His proposal was accepted, and Lomax ventured to Washington, D.C. to survey the contents in the archive of American folk song in the Library of Congress and determine plans for how to make contributions. Lomax arranged for the library to provide recording equipment, even including blank discs, in exchange for him traveling the country, recording songs to be added to the archive. During the next decade, Lomax and his entire family, including his second wife, Ruby Terrell Lomax, whom he married in 1934, were involved in the research for the archive. Most notably, his youngest son, Alan, traveled the country with him and became the archive's first paid employee in 1937. Their travels led them to tour prison farms in 1933, where they recorded work songs, ballads, blues from prisoners like James Ironhead Baker, Mose Clearrock Platt, and Lightnin' Washington. Sound recording equipment was still heavy and bulky, but advancements in the technology improved the portability. In July of that same year, Lomax acquired a 315-pound acetate disc recorder and installed it in the trunk of his car. It was with that disc recorder that they first recorded Huddie Ledbetter, better known as Leadbelly, sing and play a 12-string guitar at the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola. Lomax wanted to record these folk songs because he saw them being left behind and forgotten with the excitement of new technologies like the radio and record players. It's ironic that these new modern inventions were so vital to his recordings and music preservation. Over the course of his lifetime, Lomax traveled over 200,000 miles, visited all but one of the 48 contiguous states, and contributed over 10,000 recordings to the Archive of American Folk Song. In addition to cowboy songs and other frontier ballads in 1910, John Lomax also published Songs of the Cattle Trail and Cow Camp in 1919, which was republished in 1927 and 1931, American Ballads and Folk Songs in 1934, Negro Songs as sung by Leadbelly in 1936, the John and Ruby Lomax 1939 Southern States recording trip, Our Singing Country in 1941, and Folk Song USA in 1947. He published an autobiography in 1947, Adventures of a Ballad Hunter. The book was awarded the Carr P. Collins Prize as the Best Texas Book of the Year by the Texas Institute of Letters. John Avery Lomax died in Greenville, Mississippi on January 26, 1948, and was inducted into the Western Music Hall of Fame in 2010.